All right. Thought we had an American join join the webinar then. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining on this webinar today. Thank you very much to our guests, Dewan Chowdhury, the editor at Coop Academies, joining us. Really going to show everyone about why schools should utilize data and data apprenticeships. Just to give you a little intro, I'm the employer partner manager at NowSkills, and there were many organisations from one employee to 30,000, school or not, all around apprenticeships. And I'm here to give the advice around apprenticeships, and definitely any questions around data and schools direct to Dewan, as he will know more than me when it comes to that. Is that an all right introduction for you, Dewan?
Oh God, thank you for that, Sam. Right, you're gonna have to give me host because I can't share otherwise.
Right.
I will introduce some other colleagues very soon. Have I got share now? Let's have a look. No, not yet. Press some buttons. There we go. I got it now.
You got it?
Excellent.
All
Yeah.
right.
Right. So, welcome. Thank you, Seb, for having me on today, and a bit of a show and tell and talk about how we in Coop Academies operate in terms of data. So I thought I'll start with a little bit of a bio, really. I don't want to bore you to death, but I thought it'll give you a bit of context in terms of how I got into data. And people just don't get born into data, right? It's one of those things that it's either your cup of tea or not. However, it's something that's always there. I wasn't even born in UK. I came to the UK when I was 8 years old, and I'm an EAL student, and I learned my English here. But I did my, primary, secondary, GCSEs, A levels, and degree. And then I worked in retail, Carphone Warehouse and Barclays. And then after the financial crash, and I went back, back to uni, and I did my PGCE to be a teacher of maths. And I tell you now, it's the best thing ever that's happened to me in my life, right? Education is a vocation, and it's the best place to be in, and it's a proper job satisfaction area. Okay, I've even taught abroad in a British school in Qatar. Came back to the UK, and the whole education system changed. And then I had to relearn everything about 9 to 1s. Where's ABC's gone? So, get into the back in the world of things. But I joined back as a teacher, and then I quickly became SLT, senior leadership team. And then my school joined the Multi Academy Trust. And again, that was a new thing. What is a Multi Academy Trust? And a MAT, Multi Academy Trust, a MAT is basically a group of schools that come together and you have a leadership team in there that come from education. So the CEO, education director, they'll be ex-head teachers, ex-executive head teachers, and they know what the score is. And they can then sort of build a network of team of people that can help all the schools. And then it's about the schools working collaboratively together. So when the school I started in was the 10th school to join the Coop Academies Trust, but now we have 37 schools part of our trust. We grew very, very quickly. But I was a math teacher, and I know I like my numbers and I like my spreadsheets, and then the data world started, and then in the trust they had a position for a trust data manager. And when I went into that role, the trust grew very quickly from 10 to 25 schools. And trying to deal with all that high level data in terms of the CEO needs to know what's going on across his schools. He can't go into every single school. There needs to be a way of element of reporting mechanism. And that was my first role. And, as we grew, we're now 37, as I said, and it's what do we do and how do we do the reporting? Um, so this is just a breakdown of the Coop Academies Trust. We have over 21,000 students. We have schools in the Manchester region. We have schools in the Yorkshire and Leeds and Bradford, Kirklees area. We've got schools in the Stoke, and we've got schools in the Wirral. Okay, we've got secondary schools, we've got primary schools, we've got post 16, and we've got special schools with students with special education needs. So we're a mixed bag across there. We are, Coop Academies is in the top, I think in the top 15 in the trust, in the country of large multi-academy trusts. So it comes down to what is a data strategy in education? What does that look like? Right? You need to have some sort of data strategy, and data is a new concept. A lot of people, AI and everything else going on. What is data? Right? So data strategy is needed. And when we look at data strategy, especially I'm going to talk to you about from an education point of view. And I know there are people here from other industries, okay? But from an education point of view, the data strategy, you need to build a data team. And that team, you need to understand whether when we are doing reporting, I am a central data person from a multi-academy trust level, and I do central reporting. So do you have data that does academy level reporting? So in each of our schools, we have data managers. And those data managers will deal with that academy and will report and do analysis for that academy only. But then I don't have the capacity to do academy level for every single academy. Well, I didn't at that time, but I'll tell you what happened now. But then, I started off with central reporting. So what does a trust central data team look like? You need people with industry knowledge. Let's say that. Because when I say education leadership experience, I've been a teacher. I've been a senior leader, I've been a middle leader, so I know how it works on the ground. And then put my nerdy hat on with data, and I can then make the data presentable to the relevant audience. So unless you know what you're talking about, it's very difficult to do data. Okay. So having that education or industry experience is important. So whoever's in the central team that deals with data, you need someone that has that skill set. Then you need people with the data skills. Where's that come from? Yes, great. Excel, pivot charts, Power BI, Looker Studio, SQL dashboards, databases. That is a concept that's not really addressed properly in the industry. Where is the skill set? How do we get the skill set? How do we upskill those people? Okay. And then you can't just buy a dashboard. We're now in a world where we have dashboards, working off spreadsheets and stuff like that is a thing of the past. We've got AI doing all sorts of stuff like that now. So we need to build dashboards. And one of the reasons, and I'll introduce Grace very shortly, we are on the Google Cloud platform. All our organizations are all Google. We don't have Microsoft tenancy. So that was a decision made outside of my control. So, and I embraced it. So we do a lot of reporting through Looker Studio, Data Studio. Then we had to learn about, databases. How does database work? What does BigQuery? So these are all upscaling that you then have to do. And that's the journey I went on. When I came into that role of central data, my skill set was only up to there, to be honest with you. Excel and pivot charts. Then I learned a bit of Power BI when I was in that one academy. And then when I went to the trust level, the trust said, no, we're Google. Right. So this is when I reached out to the likes of Grace Kelly and other awesome team in Google who've got fantastic support people that then teach you and put you on these courses and webinars and stuff. And then that's where you understand and do a bit more upskilling. Okay. And then as the need of demand of the trust grew, capacity is a very big question. And how do we get capacity? And I went up the route of a data apprentice, and I'll introduce Logan shortly. Logan is the data apprentice that I got through Seb's organization, NowSkills. And he's been with us coming up to a year almost, Logan. You started in May and, we're February already. So it's been like, 9 months already, and the growth he's had, and he'll tell you his journey. He knew nothing about Looker Studio, and now he's got his own dashboards that he's building. You know, Now, then you also have to consider technology, right? What is the status of your current technology, the infrastructure in your organization? Is it fit for purpose? Have you got servers on site? Have you got cloud servers? And what is the security? What is the process of the governance and security, and how did you? These are things that you got to think about. You got to have policies in place, procedures in place. GDPR is a massive thing, especially when you're working in data. Who has access to your data? Where is your data going, and what they're doing with your data? How long are they storing it for? What data are they storing? So there's a lot of questions when you work in data. Very, very important. And then you've got third-party integration with third-party systems. that connect to your system. And that might be for HR data, staff data, that might also be, in our organization, in schools, we do something called integrated curriculum and, financial led in planning. So that's something that, school is still an organization that has money coming in and going out, and we employ people. And how do we make sure we make the most out of that money? Because it's public funds. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the students that we have are getting the best deal, right? So there's a lot of integration of systems that we can do. So in terms of limitation of, technology and infrastructure, as I was saying before, we have automation in place. Grace will tell you about all the AI projects that Google are doing, the machine learning, eliminate repetitive tasks. The days of downloading spreadsheets and spending 5 hours on trying to build a report, which is a static report, right? Because then next week you got to do the whole thing again. But this is where dashboards come in. This is where data is maximized massively. HR data, admin data, the amount of time people will save. And it's not about people losing their jobs. It's not about that. It's about how are they now freed up to do more stuff that they didn't get a chance to do. And it's that work-life balance as well, right? Now, again, I'm not going to go into too much about limitations of basically, I went through a journey where we had Google Sheets, but Google Sheets have a limitation of 1 million cell limit. But then Grace then introduced me to all this cloud platform and BigQuery databases, which has millions of rows of data and the computing power that does. That's when it changed my life in terms of, right, outside, get out of the spreadsheet world, get into the database world. Okay. And it's not an easy journey, by the way. It is a daunting journey, but this is where organizations are out there that can help you through this journey and put things in place and training. And listen, what do I know about coding and stuff like that? When 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was teaching. So it's an upskilling job, but there are guidance and support in place. Um, so this is the sort of thing I did. But then, yeah, apprentice. I'm gonna pass it over to Sebastian Seb now to go through this. And the reason, if I wanted to get a data analyst on my team, my organization wasn't going to authorize 40, 50,000 salaries. It just doesn't exist in education. So, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, Logan, but apprentices are cheaper, right? They're cheaper for the organization because the salaries are more affordable, and that I can give out a lot less salary than that. But also, there's an apprentice levy, the government funding, that can help towards the course to upskill people like Logan, right? So then there's different levels. Level 3, Logan's on the level 4 because I wanted someone that knew already about spreadsheets, and so level 3 would be more right. Get to know the data, Microsoft or Google or Excel or spreadsheets or Looker Studio. It's get the basics going. But level 4 is that analytics of database. This is where everybody is now, analyzing your data with analytics dashboards. So that's the level 4. And then when, we talked about this, Logan, and, Logan said that he'd like to go into the next stage, which would be level 5 and be a data engineer, which is phenomenal. So there is always a route to this. So Seb, I'll stop presenting for a second so you can talk.
Oh,
Right?
it's all right. It's all right. Just before I do, has anyone got any questions for doing up to now? Anyone? We're all right. We're all right. So, in regards to the apprenticeship, Logan, was he 18 or 19 when he started? Were you doing?
I
Pretty
don't know.
sure
How
he
old are
was
you, Logan?
I was 19 at the time, yeah.
19.
Yeah.
That's fine. So with Logan, he actually did before he came onto the apprenticeship. He did one of the new things called a T level, which is basically like a BTEC where you get experience from the way I've understood it more than anything. So it's not the same as apprenticeship where you earn while you learn, but you do get a lot more experience than what you would normally. So during his T level, was it a digital production T level you did, Logan? If I remember
Yes, it
correctly.
was.
Yeah. So luckily, during his T level, this is what got him his experience that made him above our level 3 need because he already knew a lot about Excel. He was already pretty good with Python as well and Power BI. But the level 4 is about maximising that. So a level 3 is the equivalent to 2 A levels. A level 4 is equivalent to a foundation degree. So if you was going to hire someone, if you wanted someone like Logan, where they've already got a bit of a data skill set, you'd have to be looking more the level 4 route. So for any employee with less than £3 million on the payroll, for someone like Logan who's 19, you would pay nothing towards his training. Anyone who's 16 to 21, the government would fully fund the training, so they cover the cost of 15 grand. They won't give it you. You just won't have to contribute anything towards it. And as it stands, I don't know anything else the government's willing to part way 15 grand for. So make the most of it. Another thing is because he's under 25, the national insurance on top of his wages of 13.8%, which is going up to 15% in April, gets completely wiped. So that's about a couple grand minimum, really, you'd save per year just for putting him through training. And his training will save you money, save you time, and as Dewan's already said, he's keen to do the level 5 next. So it's someone who's going to grow and grow, and he'll be potentially moving Dewan off the seat and taking control of the data team himself with the way he's going. But it's really key about growing with the times and utilising data apprenticeships. You don't actually have to hire either when it comes to apprenticeships. With what we tend to find, especially with schools, because of the budgets, you can't afford to hire new people. If you've either got, like I said, less than a £3 million payroll, so if it's someone 16 to 21 who's maybe just done a business admin apprenticeship, so they're already all right with spreadsheets, but they need more, you probably put them to level 3 or level 4 if they're quite capable. And it'd just be the exact same in terms of the funding rules. So anyone over 21, you'd either pay 5%, or a lot of companies like the Co-op, because the Co-op have the levy share, and BBC and Amazon and Lloyds Bank, they actually offer to cover the cost of the training specifically for digital apprenticeships, because it's a big government movement to make people more skilled digitally. So they favoritise those type of apprenticeships. So as it stands with a school, I personally wouldn't worry about any types of funding costs or implications. It's something I can easily follow up with. I want to hear a bit from yourself, if I'm honest, Logan. So you, as Dewan said, you're getting close towards a year. In your journey working as a data analyst apprentice of such a large trust, what tasks were you getting on with originally? What kind of stuff are you getting on with now? How's that differ now that you've been upskilled more?
Wow, it's been a very long, fast learning journey and a very good one. At first, I started with basic Google Sheets. It was learning Google Sheets as well because I had no experience with the Google side, but I had experience with Excel, which is a transferable skill. So I managed to transfer a lot of my Excel skills over to Google Sheets to learn that platform a bit more and get used to the Google world. And once I got used to that Google world, it was more getting onto your BigQuery and your Looker Studio. So as to today, it would be more looking at doing dashboard work and experimenting with different creative ideas on how to present data.
I think, just to step in there, Seb, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Where, when we're looking for apprenticeships, and obviously I had loads of CVs and all the rest, and it's very difficult to find the right person, especially for data, because it's not everyone's cup of tea, let's face it, right? You need the right sort of mindset. But then, when I interviewed Logan, he came across very professional. Because obviously, when we work in schools and I work with head teachers and senior leaders across the trust, the audience that I represent is a different level. So you need that professional. And he came across very professional. That was the first thing. But secondly, he had the skill set. As he was saying, he had those transfer. He knew nothing about education, and he knew nothing in the Google world. But he had the skill set and the motivation. And that's all you need. There's nothing to be afraid of working with data. As long as you are open-minded and, data is something that you want to work in. I think there was a question there in the book about someone about how do you get into it. It's having that motivation that, yeah, I would like to do more with data. And that's the first start. And then it's finding the root of, right, what is it that you want to do? How do you want to do it? And then guiding. And then, when Grace comes on, she'll tell you about all the different courses that are available. That there's so much out there that you can go on. And apprenticeships like what, Seb is talking about, the apprenticeships, what I found with them, Logan goes on these courses, once a week, every other week, he's on different courses, and he's picking up so much skill set. I'm not having to train him myself. He'll go on these courses, come back, and he'll tell me something new he's learned, which is phenomenal. So there are benefits in that. And even if, I think Seb, you were saying that we've got people on our organization that are not on apprentice, but they want to get accreditation of level 3s, level 4s, level 5s, even degree level accreditation. And we can use we can use the apprentice levy pot to put people on courses, even though they're still employed with us. And I think that, Seb, that is a fantastic way of upskilling your own staff.
It's the best way to do it, and a lot of people get scared of the word data because unless you are hired as a data analyst, majority of the time, if you're in like a junior role, it might not have the title data in it. Yet you're dealing with data every single day. Most admin jobs, especially in schools, you're dealing with data every single day. Finance, HR, accounts teams, data is part of the everyday job, and the apprenticeship will teach them how to utilize that. Because even our business analyst apprenticeship, the other level 4, the reason a lot of schools like to utilize that is because you have to look at the data for the school, but you're running it like a business because you want to reduce costs across the board. That's always one of the most important things in a school, and get things done quicker. You could say that to any non-profit organization, that you want to improve efficiencies and costs, and it'll be relevant. It'll always be relevant because you're always working to a budget, and that one we even cover agile project management. But a level 4 is always for either someone who's experienced or someone who's quite senior in the company to help make decisions. And I'll be honest, normally you tend to be over 21 for a lot of the level 4s, but as we've seen with Logan, although he's young, he really knows his stuff and has helped do him massively in this is a massive role, really, with the amount of schools that's involved. There's not many schools that'll have the same type of journey probably Logan's gone through. Be probably a lot more manageable, but he's still there now, so he's clearly managed the task, and he wants to
not
plod on.
him off yet. So at this stage, I think I want to bring Grace in. Great. In the Google environment that we're working on, and before I show off some dashboards on the Google Looker Studio side, Grace, please do come in and introduce yourself.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I've been chuckling to myself, Dewan, because you've been saying Grace will come in and tell you loads of things. I'm like, we've learnt so much from you. And I think this is part. Am I okay to share my screen?
Yeah, please do.
So I just wanted to. I always start with this point. I'm just gonna. Is it all right? Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can see your notes as well. I don't know if you want to go slideshow.
Oh, no, I'm going to go slideshow. You're not going to see my notes. No notes. All right. We know what we're presenting. I always start with this because this is Gary and Sergey, like the Google founders. This is 1988, and this was the first ever Google Office. And when you think about obviously what Google is now, Google's mission statement has always been taking the world's information and making it universally accessible and useful. And so when we talk about data, I think you to that point when you mentioned about, you hear the word data and people get kind of intimidated by it, but data is just information. And the education sector, the way that we use data in qualitative and summative ways is super important, from a classroom teacher right down to Dewan's role. So what I wanted to do is kind of explore to you maybe more on the kind of the classroom focus, because I think, Dewan, you can speak to the kind of the big picture, big query piece better than I can. But just to give you an indication, we're thinking about the role of AI right now in data. And often when we talk about AI, people perceive it to be something that's really new when AI has been around for a really long time. So if you've been using predictive text, smart compose, all of that, that's been in the background, just making our experience of the tech that we have better, and ultimately by kind of learning, how we work and regaining that information. So how it all began in terms of what the role of data is in education is was taken by Jennifer Holland, who is one of our product managers for Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is one of our education specific products and tools. She went into a classroom, and she saw on the wall, a teacher had put this step-by-step guide of how to upload a file, right? So I used to be a secondary school teacher. I definitely created something like this myself at some point. And that was the nucleus of really creating this feedback-driven approach around what educators need and how we can help them make the best use of the data that they actually need in the day-to-day teaching. So at Google, we have a really feedback-driven approach. So from the research piece to the initial development, and this is where a relationship with Dewan comes in, where we were really looking to understand how schools and multi-academy trusts were using data, what the challenges were, and just learning, because a lot of our products weren't initially created for education. We've adapted based on the feedback that we've been given and the use cases that we've observed. So we've learned so much from you, and we've been, sort of showcasing the work and the impact that you've had at Co-op. But to this piece, yeah, so we, the research, initial development, getting the in-use feedback, and putting that into our beta product, alpha, and then just keep that's the cycle. We keep on improving as we go, and we keep on, staying close to those feedback loops. And so behind that as well, we have these learning science principles, and these are also the principles that inform Learn LM, which is our education language model. So thinking about products that inspire learning, products that manage cognitive loads, our ability to learn multiple things at once, or just generally just our capacity to learn. Deepen metacognition, so thinking about the connection between education segments, obviously stimulating curiosity, and then creating a personalized learning experience, so adapting to the learner's needs. So when we're thinking about across an education segment, where can these tools be used? It's right from the an instructional leader, so someone in the classroom, an IT director, a data person, an organizational leader, a broader educator, and obviously the learner themselves. So we're thinking about our tools holistically, gathering the feedback, creating that loop, and then going back to informing these products. So an example of that is a product that we have in Google Classroom called Interactive Questions. Now, what this means, you can see this lovely little GIF that I'll pretend that I created. But what this means is that a teacher can assign a video, and in the video, they can put a quiz, right? And the student can't get past that question unless they've completed the quiz. That data is then collated in Google Classroom, and a teacher has real-time, on-the-go data to student progress. That's also data that you can see at organization level. So educators in the classroom have to do something called assessment for learning. So you have to, whether that's marking a book or getting this kind of quiz data, or just generally getting that kind of quality data in the classroom. So being able to see data in a snapshot and really quickly is super important and can help a teacher intervene really quickly. Another tool we have is something called practice sets. Again, think of it like an interactive quiz format. So the teacher can upload the quiz. If the student has a touch screen or a stylus, they can do handwritten workings out. The teacher can modify. So you see you've got this little light bulb here. So that shows that the teacher's put in a specific hint for that tool. And that basically allows them to collate that data again. So all of this is all fed back into the Google Classroom analytics, which means that a teacher can see at scale, like in this example here, class insights. So they can see how many times a student has attempted something, how many times, they got it wrong, which questions they got wrong. And this helps the teacher quickly adapt the next learning sequence, right? So back to that point about data being, you know, like an intimidating word, this is data, and the teachers use it every single day. And if I was to say to a data that you're in this moment, you're actually being a data analyst, right? It's part of the role. And so we're building our tools in a way that helps teachers get those insights quickly and like really impactfully. Another way that we're doing that is building into Sheets as well. So if you're using AI in Sheets, you can use the AI to create insights based on the data in the Sheets. So it's whether you're just like, you know, trying to organize the data, you're trying to track trends. It just allows you to kind of break down those complex data sets. So for me, someone that I'm not techie in this sense, right? This is really useful for me to be able to kind of break down large data sets and be able to present that in a way that is digestible to my colleagues who are maybe more, you know, like data savvy in this sense. So Dewan, you spoke to like the communities that we offer and the kind of courses that we offer. So at Google for Education, we have a team called the Global Impact Team, and they create development programs for educators. And specifically this group here, we call them the admin group. But this is where people can come together who are trying to understand how to best use like cloud structure, BigQuery, analytics, and create these data platforms that are really easily digestible, but also have impact across their organization. And so, you know, it's free to join. It's just you come through, and then we have like annual events, and depending on the region, people come together and they do courses here as well. So a lot of it is Google funded in terms of like qualifications and things you can do. And on top of that, just means you have more access with people who are able to support with kind of any ideas or schemes that you might have. And I think that's what I've prepared. But I don't know if you have any questions, or I've had about 5 coffees today, so I feel like I spoke about a million miles an hour. So please let me know.
No, it was nice and clear, Grace. It was nice and clear. Just seeing if anyone does have any questions for Grace. So, first of all, Grace, what is your position then at Google?
That's a really good question. Good point. I should have started with that. So my role is all about digital transformation. So I work with schools, national government, local authorities who are already using Google products in some capacity. So whether it's Workspace or Chromebooks, and it's all about helping them get the most out of their relationship with us. So that can mean like programmatic support, so putting together teacher training for their organization, or admin training, data training, or the kind of projects that we've done with Dewan here at Co-op, where it's kind of getting him in front of, you know, the teams that are building a lot of these products, but actually are quite far removed from education. So it allows that team to gain insights from somebody that's actually doing the work in the context.
No, that makes it nice and clear. And that's, you've basically been assisting us then with the development of Logan by the sounds of it.
Well, when Logan says Sheets earlier on, I was like,
I'll be having a word with him later. He's not Sheets. But yeah, because with our apprenticeships, we were already with us on our data analyst apprenticeship. We cover every software. I don't know if you've spoke yourself with Gus, the product manager, but our product managers on each sector like to basically make sure we've covered every corner. And this is definitely our biggest Looker Studio type project. Gus, we're already very knowledgeable around it, but it's actually helped us be able to tailor the rest of the training so it definitely fits Looker Studio, because it's completely free to use, if I'm right saying, which for organizations that aren't Microsoft organizations, it's massive, because it's such a good software to use too. So that's what you find normally when you use a free software. It might be, we might as well just use what everyone else uses, but this is bang on. From what I hear anyway. I'm definitely not a data type person.
I think it's, so when I think about when I was in the classroom and the amount of data that I needed to know at the drop of a hat, like, and, you know, think about progress data or any kind of student data that you might need. Something like Looker Studio just allows you to build something that's customized to your context. And it's pretty intuitive, but also with the AI piece, you can also get AI to support you in creating some of those queries as well. I'm a big advocate of letting the people who know what they're talking about talk what they're talking about. So that's why I'm going to defer to Dewan on that piece. But yeah, obviously entirely clouds. like infrastructure, and everything that you would use externally as a Google product, we use internally. So, you know, our databases are on Sheets, our databases are in Looker Studio. We don't outsource in that sense. So yeah, it's just very integrated.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna show you some dashboards now. Sort of the sort of things that is available to be built in Looker Studio. Right, Grace, I'm gonna have to take share off you. How do we do this?
Please go for it. Let me just. There you go.
There we go. Right. And you lots of different analytical dashboards. Has anybody got any questions so far? Anything coming up in the chat, Seb?
So let me just have a little look. Apart from the one asked by Daniel, you already answered that. It's your number one top tip. Well, I suppose you kind of answer it about your number one tip for an aspiring data analyst. What would your number one tip be for him doing? You are definitely very knowledgeable around data. Even Grace said they've learned a lot from you at Google for your data knowledge. So surely you're the best man to ask.
I think there's no limits to this at the moment. You know, with the stuff that we can do with data, and now with AI in the mix of it, what AI has now done for us is made everything so efficient and faster. We can now do so much more that would have taken us ages to do in the first place. You know, we can now get it to be creative as well. Right. So I think the next phase, you know, aspiring wise, is how the world is going to change with using AI to make things more efficient. You know, and it's not about AI taking over our jobs or taking over our roles. It's about how do we use them to make things faster. You know, we've gone past the stage where computers are now smarter than human beings, right? They can make a lot more calculations and work through algorithms as quicker than we can. So it's about utilizing that. And don't worry, we're not in that Terminator world, and we won't let them take over. But we want to control that side and make the most out of how we use data. On that note, I'm gonna now showcase some of the work that me and Logan do in our.
Logan, do you mind if I just quickly just jump in? Sorry, because I'm going to have to jump off in a second. But I just wanted to say that I shared in the chat a link to a course that we offer with Grow with Google, which is about data analytics and kind of intro to it. And to Dewan's point, I just had a look on our careers page just to see what are the kind of keywords when looking for a data analyst. And a lot of it is actually just around your interests and your passion. Like the data analyst piece is the skill, and then it's being able to apply that to any context. And I think what's important is just knowing what your passion is or what direction you want to take that. So I'm going to leave you that little gem.
Looks good. Looks good. I just clicked on the link myself. Looks nice.
It looks
Definitely
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you might. I'm sure you're going to have feedback for us. 100%.
Okay. So dashboard wise, am I sharing now? Yeah. Okay. So we have lots and lots of data that we have to sift through and present in a way that's meaningful. So I'm going to show you lots of different dashboards in different contexts. And these are all Looker Studio dashboards, so all built in the Google space. And we have a lot of data moving around different systems, all automated in that process as well. So first of all, cohort demographics. So what is the mix of all the students in our academies and how do they vary? So there's a demographics page. Oh, I've done something.
I'm about to say there's nothing showing on here yet, do we?
What about now?
Yeah. It's loaded. Yeah, we're on.
Are we on? Are you seeing the demographic page?
Yeah.
Sorry, I got multiple screens. I wasn't sure which screen I was sharing. Right, then you got, a bit more about our academies. I've taken the names out, obviously, but, how many students are in which academy or in which year group. So this is like top-level data from a trust point of view that our trustees and our CEO would need to know, right? What is the demographic status of our academies? Then we've got an Ofsted review profile, some of our academies and, well, all of our academies on the list, and what is the Ofsted rating and how is that measured? And to be honest with the Ofsted's changed their criteria now. From September, they're going to do a different way of coming to review schools, but this is the old criteria of what the mix is. We got attendance data. So we got attendance data of all the academies, and we can see where our higher, brilliant attendance is to the schools that are a bit lower down the attendance mark. We're breaking it down with different regions, the primary, secondary, and then we also break it down to demographic data. This is a trend of attendance data across the year. So this is, I think, last year's data. Yeah. So this is last year's data. Start of the academic year in September all the way to July, and we can see on a day-by-day basis how the attendance, and funny how it's always the last day of term, a lot of people decide not to come to school and the attendance always drops. But these are the things, we use analytics, we use data to see, right, where are our gaps? Where are we dropping things? Where are we not where we need to be? So this is where we then break down the attendance. We break down on a term-by-term basis, break of different academic year groups, the demographics, boys, girls, PP, EAL, SEND, and then even ethnicity. All of these things we consider in schools of, right, which group of students are not where they need to be, and which group of students are we struggling with attendance. We even break it down to all the half terms. We even break it down to the week by week and a day of the week, right? But now imagine trying to do this in spreadsheet world. That's just not possible. And this is what you get from computing power of dashboards and analytics. And this dashboard is live every day. It updates every day. So once you've built the dashboards, you can have it auto feeding, and the data just flows through the whole pipeline and then updates the data analytics automatically. Yeah. Persistent absence is when we track students that are lower than 90% attendance. So if they're not in school, how are they going to learn? So it's addressing those students and identifying those students that are persistently absent and bringing them, doing all the measures that we can to bring them in. But this was another interesting one, attendance map. We've put the area, we know where our students live. We put it on a map and we put their attendance, and then we can see what their attendance is like based on regions. And are their attendance really low because they live so far away? And the other one I've done is about mode of transport. How do they get to school? Are they on the bus, or are they walking, or they get a lift? And it's interesting when then you mix that with weather, how the weather affects their attendance. So it's all, I'm going all geek out here now, but it's all exciting stuff because it's what you do with the data and the context of it, and you can explore so many different avenues just by having the data at your fingertips. Then we've got behavior data. How are the students behaving in our schools? What is the behavior criteria? Is it, even when you look at this, different year groups, different time, different week by week, different day, time of the day. And this is the sort of analytics that we can do, breaking that down. So this is positive behavior, by the way. So that's good. Lots going on, lots of positive rewards being given. And then we can see what sort of positive behavior. I've taken the names away here, obviously, but we can then see which students are getting the most positive rewards and so on. On the flip side, we've got the negative side. So we can see where the behavior is not quite right. And we analyze that in the same sort of way. And few more analytics of which class, which subject, which class. We can really drill down to the data, and that's the best part of it. I'll flick over to some assessment data now. So we look at assessments across the trust, how each school is doing with all the different various assessments. We break down those assessments on all the demographics. So how are the boys doing compared to the girls? How are the students with that in-year admission? September start. There's lots of different breakdown. How do they do in autumn compared to summer? So all that comparison of assessment data. Then you drill it down to student level. Obviously, I've taken the student names out, but you then have the capability of drilling it down to the student level. Who met the criteria? Who didn't meet the criteria? Who is predicted to meet the criteria? What is their target? That sort of breakdown. This is another version where we do analysis on the SAT scores. So, you might know in year 6, students do SATs, and we practice the SATs quite a few times. So what did they get in the SATs for the reading, the writing, the maths, and the grammar, punctuation, spelling? And how does that compare to the target where they should be? And how far away from the target they are. So lots of analysis in there. Venn diagram. We've got a Venn diagram in Google Data Studio that we've created, which then tells us, right, are they getting the reading? Are they getting the writing? Are they getting the maths? And we can see all those numbers in the right way. It turns it into percentages, and you can focus a bit more. That was primary world. Now this is secondary world. Lots of, again, high-level data across all the academies with how they're doing with progress and attainment. And then this is where we can then compare and track how the schools have been doing year upon year. So this is an example of one school where different demographics of students and how the number of demographics change over the years, how the attainment grade, so these are grades, average grade, how the progress differs, and then, what are the percentages of getting 4+ in maths and English and combined and so on. So lots of charts and lots of, hopefully, I've been able to show you lots of different types of charts that we can produce and then analytics that go with that. So, if you are interested in data, especially education data, there's a lot of data people that I've got together from large multi-academy trusts and small. And we formed this organization called EduData. Now, I'm not sure if the website's up yet, but I think it will be very, very soon. If you know people in the education data world, Duncan Bolded is our chair, and he's an ex-retired head teacher, and he knows his stuff on data and education. And they voted me in as vice chair, so I'm quite humbled in that sense. And we have an organization where we support other data leaders to help them understand and do more and upskill and train. And this is the community that we have that Logan has joined as well in learning more. And as I said, Logan came into my organization not knowing anything about education. And it doesn't matter if you don't know, it's the skill set. It's the skill set of what data, what level of data analysis that you can do, and the motivation, what is your motivation and what is it that you want to do long term. So I hope I've not bored anyone to death about data. Data is always a touchy subject, and people run a mile when we say data, right?
It's everywhere.
I hope that's been useful. And I'll just take any last questions, Seb, if there's any.
Well, about to say there's a couple of questions for you here. So first one, what are the common barriers that you faced in your data journey?
When I was going through my data journey, the difficulty has been trying to find people in that world that can help and support. Data is a very isolated area. And, sometimes there's people working in data in an office that don't see a day of light, right? And then it's that sense. So it's that networking. The barrier is trying to get hold of other people, but the network is there. Now it's there. It's a lot more available now than it was when I was in my journey. The fact that you've got apprentice providers that can train people, the likes of Google that have lots of webinars and services that can then go in and I can go and upskill. But you have to have that motivation yourself. No one's going to come knocking on your door to teach you. You need to have the motivation yourself. And then if you look hard enough, well, you don't need to look that hard now, but there are so many opportunities out there now. Any more questions there on there, Seb?
So the other question was, I don't know if it actually was for you or Grace, but you might be able to answer it. It was, given that Google's model is to collect data to monetize, what considerations do they have for uploading data about children and young children into Google Looker Studio for data analytics?
Okay, so I won't be able to comment on the monetized side of it because we have Google for Education, and that is it's not about profit in that sense,
Yeah.
and that side of it. In terms of data security, utmost secure. Okay, obviously we have student data. That is the most sensitive data you can ever get. and the security, the governance behind that, the data policies behind that. We own our data. Google don't own our data. Okay, they are providing the infrastructure, the computing power, and the storage power for us to store that data. You know, most of our schools are now serverless. There is no servers on site. We use cloud servers, and we have many Google Cloud servers. So it's all about the privacy and the security side of it. But I can assure you that our data is in a safe place with Google, and only we access the data. Not even Google can access our data. Yeah.
What are the most essential? So next one, sorry, from Logan's perspective. This is a question for Logan. What makes Dewan a good mentor for you in your role?
Dewan has been a great mentor because he speaks from someone who came from a teaching perspective, so he knows how to teach a student in that way. So when we're doing a lot of our one-to-one meetings, he can speak from a perspective that I can understand, so that he doesn't overload me with information. It's more step by step, building me up as I go along learning. Also very patient with me, with what I'm doing. If I don't get it straight away, he'll always explain it again to make sure I do get it. And I'm always confident around what I can do when I'm with doing.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Glad to hear it.
Pleasing to hear. Thanks, Logan. I hope you're not saying that just because I'm here, but you know what? What he's saying though, he's quite good points there though. You have to be patient. People are coming into this role, especially an apprentice, and you can't expect them to know it all. And off you go, right? Go and build that for me. It is a journey. It is that learning journey. Yes, I want him to go and build things, but if I don't upskill him and I don't give him the tools to do the job, then how do I expect that? So there is that understanding that, and I think that's a really good point, that apprentice is an awesome way to get people on board, to upskill them and sort of mold them into what you want someone in your role to do, right? And it's that journey, and hopefully you get people that then stay for the long term, because Logan could go at the end of this apprentice, he could go and get a job in industry or go somewhere else. But if he chooses to stay, then there's more learning to be had and there's more gain on that as well. And I suppose it's that relationship that you build up as well, isn't it?
It is indeed. And another question for you, Dewan. What are the most essential contributions that a mentor can offer to an apprentice?
I think that role model side, it is understanding that you got to give them time. You got to give them bite size, bit by bit. That where this is what Logan. This is where I need you to be in a year's time. But we'll break that down. And we started a project on our we started a dashboard project with 0 page. Literally page 1, and now it has 90 odd pages on it. And we have schools across 20 of our primaries use this space to do the analytics, and that was a journey that we both started on. And now Logan looks after that dashboard all on its own, and that's because the journey that is being on through that. So I think you got to be realistic and have people come to go on a journey with you, and you can't if you think you're going to get an apprentice and there you go, off you go, get on with it. Wrong mentality. Completely wrong mentality in that sense. I'm not sure if I've answered that question right, but I hope that helped.
No. I'm really glad you finished with that point as well. It's really true, because it's the most important bit is about supporting the apprentice throughout. There's a lot of people who just hire apprentice and think, right, go on, crack on, lovely stuff. I don't need to do it now. It's about being the role model and setting the example for him. So for yourself, Dewan, obviously Logan's your first apprentice. I'm right in saying, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So when you were selecting an apprenticeship provider to partner with, what has been the most important thing to you?
Okay. When it comes to the apprentice provider, you want to be reassured that they are skilled enough to deliver the course, because there are lots of apprentices providers out there. And I met with Sebastian, and I met his CEO, and I met with the program leaders as well. And that gave me the confidence that, you know what, yeah, you're a growing organization, and we all got to start somewhere. But you've got your skill set, you've got the right sort of people, and more importantly, I think what makes a massive difference is the right attitude. It's about working with people, like-minded people, that want to support your organization. And it's not about money or this or that. It's about, right, what is it that you need? Who do you need? We'll find the right people for you. We've got the right courses. We've got the right tutors. Logan has a tutor, Gus, who is phenomenal. He's very knowledgeable, very skilled. And again, he's a teacher. So he's teaching. Oh, yeah, Gus, you're here. Fantastic. So yeah, you're guiding and teaching and supporting, Logan across and I'm involved in the meets that you have with him on a monthly basis, and it's fantastic, and it's having the right sort of people on board in your organization. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just to add to that, because I was also involved in choosing my own apprenticeship provider when I was looking for a job, and I had looked at previous apprenticeship providers before I came to NowSkills, and I did a few research on the company themselves and what they provide, and they seemed like they had a lot going for them, a lot of training. And then when I first had contact with Sebastian, offered me full support all the way through, and I thought, this is the most confident I've been that I'm going to land something here. Yeah.
I didn't do anything. All I did was tell them about you. You had all the skill set, pal.
Yeah.
You just need to prove that you had it. And if I'm right in saying, Dewan, I'm pretty sure a lot of the other candidates you had were older, and I'm pretty sure, well, on paper they might have been more experienced.
Yeah,
but it was the young cat, the Logan, who came through.
You're right. When I did the interview process, and I had CVs from other providers as well. And I had about 50 odd, and I shortlisted to about 7, and we interviewed, and we had degree specialists, we had mid-aged people that now realize that data is the place to be, and they just want to know about data. But it was making sure that you get the right person that fits your criteria. What is it that you want as an organization? Who do you want in that organization? And having a clear mind on that. But again, I think, I'm fortunate. I think I'm lucky that Logan came along in that interview. And I'm really pleased where we are. I'm fortunate in that sense. But there are a lot of good people out there, young people that want to learn, not just young people, but people that are changing their careers. Data is now such a leading area that a lot of people are trying to get into. And I think if you as an organization, you need support in data, Apprentice is definitely the way to go in my view. For like I said, for budget reasons, for support, for training. Because if you do employ someone directly, then have you got the infrastructure in place to train that person? That's another thing to consider as well. So yeah, I better stop talking because I could go on all day here, Sebastian.
And that's why exactly we got you on. Because that's the city. It's either me or you who's going to speak all day doing. It's one of us. But honestly, just to round it up, I want to say thank you very much for attending, Dewan, and obviously getting Grace from Google to attend, and Logan to having the confidence to speak on the webinar too. So really appreciate all the time you've took today with us. Honestly, this will be uploaded to YouTube as well for anyone on the webinar and it wants to show it other people. I'm sure they'll be telling every man and the dog about this, saying you've missed out. You've got to send the link everywhere. And hopefully, we've got a few schools who want to start looking into data. Because as I said to Dewan quite openly earlier, we have not got barely any data apprentices in schools, although data, out of all the organisations we work with, it is definitely one of the most important parts. But it's that understanding, and that's the main part where it boils down to, as I'm sure you'll agree, Dewan.
Definitely, and so if these schools reach out and they want a bit of guidance and point them in the right direction, and even in terms of job description on what should the job description for a data person in a school trust look like. We've gone through that phase, so I don't mind supporting and helping out. So yeah, reach out.
Really
get in
appreciate
touch
that,
with Sebastian, and we'll chat.
100%. Right. Well, I suppose that's the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. And I'm sure we'll catch up again very soon. All the best, Logan, pal. Thanks everyone for joining. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yes,
See ya.
thank you.